views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hi there, welcome to the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters and writers and editors and journalists and videographers and filmmakers, anybody who's putting something out in the borough of the Bronx, to give you a little insight as to what they're thinking when they put it out. In our second segment, we're going to do something unbelievable. We have a group of Bronx people and Bronx actors who have put together, hold your breath, the Honeyzoomers. We'll find out what that means. You know what it's a takeoff on. Anyway, but to start, we're going to get very serious with our good friend, Zack Williams from City and State New York, who is, and you can see it, it's not a virtual background. He's at the state capitol in Albany. Nice to have you with us, Zack.
Thanks so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
It's always great to have you. Now, let's go right to the top. Calls have come in to say that Governor Cuomo should resign. You did a story that said a majority of likely voters say he should resign. Our friend, the governor, is tough as nails and believes what he believes, and he certainly has said he won't. We're recording this on Monday. I heard that somebody else was going to come forward and allege that he acted inappropriately. There you go, Zack. What do you think? Where are we going with this? What's going to happen with Governor Andrew Cuomo?
Well, there's a couple different investigations going on. One conducted by Attorney General Letitia James into alleged sexual misconduct, a reported cover-up of COVID-19 deaths among nursing home residents, and other issues. There's also a impeachment probe going on by the Assembly. I think the bottom line is it'll be months before we get any clarity about the governor's political future. You know, he has said he will not resign, even though just about every elected Democrat in the state, and most Republicans for that matter, have already called for him to resign or be impeached and removed from office.
He has, as you just acknowledged, stayed strong. Do you have the sense, and you hang around there in Albany probably more than you should, do you think he's performing as he would otherwise? In other words, do you think it's affected his performance other than, yes, there's something else he's thinking about? But, he's been rolling out. I think today they announced that they're going to drop the age for vaccination eligibility. What do you think? Are we getting the same governor, even though he's somewhat distracted?
Well, I think one thing you got to keep in mind in terms of assessing the governor's political position is that public opinion only matters so far when he's halfway through his third term in office. He wouldn't even run for re-election until next year. So he's got time to see where things land. Right now, that's something that's so essential for him is maintaining his political support in the business community, among organized labor, and the Black community in particular has been the bedrock for his political support thus far. And polls have shown that even though roughly about half of people say he should resign, half of people say he shouldn't resign, he's staying now, and he's going through the budget negotiations right now. And my sources say that by and large, his people are acting the same way as they would in any other year. But I think it's very fair to assume that the governor is nowhere near as vocal about his budget priorities this year as he would in a normal year where he wasn't facing multiple scandals across the board.
I don't want to say, especially about Andrew Cuomo, that all of a sudden it makes him a softie, but maybe it makes it easier. And of course, with the Democratic majority in both houses of the state legislature, it would seem if you're a state legislator who wants something, for example, like legalizing marijuana, that you want to get through, this could be a time to do that with a weakened governor. And then we can go to the next step and say even, taxing the rich, which Governor Cuomo has basically been, the stalwart that's stopped that over the last couple of times.
Gary, it sounds like you should run for the legislature because you got good instincts. We've already seen the legislature pass these long-awaited new limits in solitary confinement, the so-called HALT bill, which passed earlier in the month. They're just finalizing a deal on recreational marijuana that's much more favorable to what legislators wanted versus the governor. And, as we speak, I got a story that's getting ready to head to press about how they're really looking to steamroll the governor on education funding. So, a lot of lawmakers are kind of seeing, some opportunities in the political game, which is the budget process. And while a lot of them want to push him out of office, they're not willing to overlook some other opportunities to deliver for their constituents in the budget due April 1st.
And of course, that opportunity is there. It's almost like, why waste it when we control both houses, which is something that hadn't happened for a while. And of course, with the supermajority in the Senate, even greater leverage over issues. So let's talk about the budget. My sense from just a couple of conversations with Bronx legislators is that it's going well, and the deep past when we did not get a budget by April 1st is not going to happen this time, and we are going to have a budget by April 1st. Your thoughts?
Well, the governor has always prided himself on maintaining the functionality of state government ever since he was first elected in 2011. Making the budgets pass more or less on time by that April 1st deadline has been very important to his political brand. I think that might be used against him this year. State lawmakers obviously got a lot of budgetary priorities, and they can kind of hold that against the governor that, if this thing goes late, if they do not pass a budget by April 1st, he might be the one that looks like he's not in control of the situation, even though they got these legislative supermajorities that could get a budget done really as soon as they're willing to put it on the floor and vote on it.
And he, the last thing he needs now is to look like he's the problem in this state, because he's got, of course, other issues.
Doesn't help.
There was something that flew by. I don't believe I read it in City and State. I read it somewhere else, that all of a sudden the governor's office announced that they found $6 billion somewhere. And I thought that was just, I don't know if you're familiar with it. Maybe I saw it in the Times.
Money's been all over the place, Gary.
Sorry, well, you're up there, I'm down here.
Yeah. Billions of dollars flowing to, there's been so much money moving around with all these federal aid packages, and also unexpectedly high tax revenues in recent months. So, the economy has really not been as bad due to COVID-19 as originally projected last spring. And that includes billions of dollars in state revenues that weren't expected, but are now flowing in. So while the governor has talked about a $12-15 billion deficit for this upcoming fiscal year, the real situation has not been nearly as bad. Maybe there's a couple billion that they still got to make up. But by and large, this $5 billion that they discovered is just tax revenues that ended up exceeding projections.
Yeah, I'm going to be talking to my accountant later, and I'm going to tell him, I just happened to find $5 billion. It's just going to work out for us. But so does that mean, the whole notion of public school funding, you mentioned it earlier as a sticking point in the past. Does that mean that maybe the governor's, not going to be able to say, hey, we don't have the money for this, we don't have the money for that, but we have money for that?
Well, the history of school funding with the governor and legislators is very controversial and too long to explain here. But the bottom line is legislators say that public school districts are owed about $4 billion in outstanding funding. That's $4 billion. They are really hoping, given the governor's political troubles, given this influx of federal aid, and given their own legislative supermajorities, that this is the year they make a down payment on that $4 billion, starting with $1.4 billion in the upcoming fiscal year that would go to nearly 700 school districts across the state.
The ongoing lawsuits and fight over the campaign for fiscal equity. I mean, this has been going on. I've been doing this here at BronxNet for 26 years. Well, that has been going on.
That's about how long it's gone on.
During the majority of it, and the calls still come out. Hey, when are we going to get our fair share funding for education? Just going back to the question of taxing the rich, does that mean that the governor then has a little more leverage to say, maybe we don't have to do that this time, even though there is certainly a large grassroots call to finally say, let's get this done, even all the way up to Washington?
It could be interesting how that plays out on an issue like online sports gambling, which is currently illegal, but they're hoping to legalize it in this budget. One of the reasons why they want to get done this year was because of this purported budget deficit, and hopefully they could raise a couple $100 million every year by allowing New Yorkers to wage sports bets online. They're still hoping to crack a deal, but there is some differences between what the Senate wants and what the Assembly wants on expanding gambling. And, given that they already got billions of new federal aid coming in, revenues are exceeding projections, it's an issue like that might not seem as urgent now to get done by April 1st as it might have a couple weeks ago.
That's actually a fascinating.
Same can be said of taxes too.
Yeah, it's a fascinating answer. And I guess I want to add into that, and then just we got about a minute before we go, is the idea of COVID relief. The stimulus bill coming out of Washington is going to be significant, obviously, or is already significant. Does that mean that the state, as far as funding the small business development and all the other things that people have wanted in the local areas, that all of a sudden the state doesn't have to kick in because the federal government is taking care of that?
You got to remember, Gary, this is a state run by Democrats.
Oh,
So it's a matter of, are they going to approve a lot of money or not quite as much money? Don't get the governor wrong. He wants to increase education spending, although he does want to replace a lot of it with federal funds, not state funds. But, there's a lot packed into this budget, much too much to discuss here. Yes, the Democratic lawmakers want to establish like an excluded workers fund, $3.5 billion to help undocumented people and others who didn't qualify for stimulus checks, unemployment, other COVID relief. But there's going to be a lot of spending in this bill, no matter who gets their way, Governor Cuomo or the lawmakers, although the latter, obviously, per the golden rule of legislators that you always probably spend more if you got enough to spend. They want to spend a couple billion more on this budget than the governor probably will be willing to expect. But at this point, they got the upper hand for sure.
Well, we established that at the beginning of this conversation. And, on one hand, I'm sympathetic to that because every district has needs right now. And every legislator says, you know what, we got to get, because I'm hearing it from everybody, not for profits. I mean, we did a show on mental health on Bronx Talk this week. And, even those providers are suffering during a time when, especially in schools, they need it. Anyway, listen, Zack Williams and his colleagues at City and State New York, I don't know what we did before City and State was doing its thing, but now that you're here, we're much better informed. And we always appreciate you taking the time from your work, which you clearly are doing, to join us here on the Bronx Buzz.
Anytime for the Bronx, Gary.
There you go. All right. Thank you so much. That is Zack Williams from City and State New York. We'll be right back. We're going to take a break, and then you'll see what I mean. It's the Honeyzoomers. Don't go away.
We know that people are dealing with the health crisis, but there's also a lot of food insecurity.
We're giving out healthy food options, and that's what's key here.
If you're a senior, you have a disability, they'll actually deliver meals to you.
The residents are anxious, they're worried, they're scared, they want to be tested.
When things were happening in our community and we couldn't get the help.
There's almost a presumption of criminality that attaches to your skin color.
The site will prioritize those who are at highest risk in the population.
If you feel symptoms and you'd like to visit one of these COVID-19 testing sites here in the Bronx, you may call the State Health Department's hotline.
Important to note about this site is no reservations are needed. This is a walk-in clinic.
A lot of us are out of work and looking for something to do.
We have the machinery and the skills to make large scales of these masks and gowns.
Take care of your people. It's going to go way further than we actually can understand.
Right now, employees like myself are just adjusting to the new reality.
Reporting from BronxNet, multimedia network for you.
BronxNet TV.
Come learn in your new state-of-the-art studios at Lehman College.
At Mercy College.
And coming soon to the South Bronx in the Hub.
Inspire with your stories, culture, history.
Your Bronx on BronxNet.
Engage with us.
Connect with us at your channels and at BronxNet.tv.
Learn, engage, inspire. BronxNet TV.
From the Bronx
to the world.
BronxNet.
Okay, back with you in the Bronx Buzz. We're going to change gears. I told you this was going to be a fun segment, and it is. And so let's say a welcome to Jolie Tribuzio. She is the Honeyzoomers. She is with the Honeyzoomers. We're going to find out what all that means. Hi, Jolie. Nice to have you with us.
Great to be here. Thank you so much.
So tell me about, before we get into the Honeyzoomers specifically, tell me about you as an actor. You've always acted, you wanted to act, it just showed up one day. How did you get to where we are?
Yes, you know, I can honestly say I always wanted to act ever since I was a little girl. And the first things that I ever did, this is why it's so nice to be on Bronx Buzz, were in the Bronx, you know, community projects. There was something that used to go on at the St. James Park, you know, up by Jerome Avenue. And, you know, I was lucky enough to have, you know, a mother and father that really listened to me when I said that's what I wanted to do and took me all around. But I have the Bronx to thank for every little bit of that, because there were all these opportunities. And not only that, I'm sure you will agree with this, plenty of interesting people all around to say like, yeah, these are the stories I want to tell as an artist. This is what I want to do. So it was definitely always something that I wanted to do, for sure.
And have you done things prior to this that people would know or be interested in, or is this really the first opportunity to make that dream come true?
You know, I've always been working at it. So I've tried to always be involved in something. But the special thing about this particular project is the work that I have done in the recent past, at least, you know, the past 5 or 6 years that has meant the most to me has been with this team. The creator of the Honeyzoomers, the writer, he is a playwright and a director that I have been working with. And the actor that plays my brother in the Honeyzoomers is an actor who I've been working with for a very long time. I actually have known him for, gosh, I don't want to say a number too big, but if we're being honest, it's over 2 decades now. Wow. I met him when I was an infant. I met him when I was a teenager. But yeah, so this team, we've been together for a while, and we've done off-Broadway theater. And right before we got into this particular project, we were set to open a musical called The Wanderer and talk about the Bronx. This is a real Bronx story based on the life of Dion. We were ready to open it at Paper Mill Playhouse in New Jersey, and the pandemic struck. And so here we were, just saying, all right, well, here we are, we're stuck. What are we going to do? And the decision was an obvious one that we're not going to stop creating. So we're going to find a way to do that.
And you watched the Honeymooners as a child. You always loved the Honeymooners. What's the appeal for you that you said, well, let's use that as, the background and the theme?
You know, I watched the Honeymooners as far back as I can remember. And it's something that was just always on in the house. Always. Of course, you know, there's your New Year's Eve marathon, and it was on Channel 11 every night. But we also had tapes of the Honeymooners that we would play until they broke, and then just get a new tape. I would go to sleep every night putting in my VHS of the Honeymooners, and it played all night long. So it was just kind of something that was so much in the fabric of my life that there are things that Ralph said that stick in my head that you actually have to pause for a second and say, wait, was that him or was that my father who used to say that? Like, it was just so much a part of the family, and Jackie Gleason in particular, but all of the people on that show, I mean, they're incredible, and they worked so well together. It inspired me to do what I do from the very beginning. So to bring those two things together, it's just unbelievable.
We do want to credit the creator as Charles Messina, right? Who
That's right.
put the whole thing together. So what was the idea? And then we're going to show a clip, and people are going to love it. But tell me, what were, like, when you said, okay, now I know about the Honeymooners, what became the Honeyzoomers?
Yeah, you know, like when we were in the midst of all of this, all stuck in our respective places, Charles was on the phone with Jeremy Long, who is one of the producers on the Honeyzoomers, who actually said to him, just in a conversation, you know, like, hey, what are you guys doing? You know, we've done a lot of work with Jeremy. Why don't you do a series? You know, you've done off Broadway, you're about to open this huge musical. what about a series? We're all stuck inside, but maybe you can film something. It could maybe be, a nod to some of those classic shows that we all love. The Odd Couple, also.
And there you were, said, well, wait a minute, it's got to be the Honeymooners, right?
And
right?
the wonderful thing is, in this big world, these Honeymooners lovers found each other because Charles 100% so influenced by the Honeymooners, loves the Honeymooners. Johnny Tamaro also. So we were able to bring that in and say, we want that feeling, which is, of course, it's a different time. These characters are a brother and sister. So it's not Ralph and Alice. We're not doing an imitation of it, but we'll do it in black and white, and it's going to be like a classic sitcom taking place in New York, just like the Honeymooners. We wanted it to be authentic like that, be funny, but also have a lot of heart. That was really important.
So let's take a look. So here they are, the Honeyzoomers, and here's about a minute-long segment. We're not going to give it any introduction, but I have a couple of things afterwards that people are going to be surprised about. So here they are, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Honeyzoomers, featuring Jolie Tribuzio as Deb. Take a look.
The Honeyzoomers was filmed during a global pandemic.
Is there something there? Come on, I'm your brother. You could tell me.
I don't know.
You don't know? She don't know now.
But I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. Does anybody? And after all this, and the only thing I can say for sure is, I don't know.
Well, that's profound.
Again, scripted line. But yeah, it's the truth, right? I don't know. And you don't know either.
Yeah, I know. Nobody knows nothing. I know what you mean.
It's time, man. It's time to look forward to looking forward again.
That guy didn't say 2 words to me.
Well, maybe he was busy. Was he crowded?
Nobody.
Well, it was just a physical, and as much as you don't want to hear it, you're healthy, eh?
Yeah, healthy. He took blood. He examined me. Barely. Gave me a flu shot. I asked him about the other thing. The vaccine. He didn't even answer me. Doctors just ain't the same no more, Deb. No friggin' bedside manner.
Well, you want to make a friend, or you want him to do his job?
Well, there it is. Your first look at the Honeyzoomers. Now, what I want to understand, and I read this in some of the notes you had sent us, this was not shot with you together because of the pandemic. You're all in different places.
Yeah.
This is true?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's absolutely true. Separate places. Weekly, Charles would write a script and send it to Johnny and I, who of course are, we play the two people that live together in the show. Although we've had incredible guest stars, him and I are always supposed to be in the same place. So we would get these scripts, have a phone call together, not even a Zoom call, just getting on the phone and reading through the script together and talking it through and getting a feel for it. And then we'd have a conversation about, I think you should be doing this while you're talking about that. And I'll be over here. So make sure you're looking to your left, because I think I'll be on that side of the room.
That's unbelievable.
How are we going to make this work? So we would shoot separately, each delivering our lines, and then I would edit them together so that it would, as close as we could get it to being as if we are in the same room.
If anybody watches it and says, well, wait a minute, Jackie Gleason and Art Carney, they're kind of taking it. But apparently Joyce Randolph stepped in and said, you know what, I kind of like the idea. How did that happen? She's a legendary figure in television.
Yeah.
Talk about that. I could just see it on your face. You're like, wow, that really happened.
It really is. It is something I still feel like that about. What an incredible thing. And we were so thankful for that. It actually came to be in meeting so many people and having so many great people come and be involved in the show. A great actor named Bob Greenberg. He is a Gleason impersonator, and specifically he does a Ralph Cramden that is just so great. And in one of our episodes, and I won't give away too much, but it's a Christmas episode. It's a really special episode. Anne, who is my brother, Johnny Tamaro's character, is visited by what is our version of a ghost of Christmas past, if you will. And this actor, Bob Greenberg, stepped in and did a great job with that, and actually had a connection to Joyce, and she was willing to speak to Charles, and they had several wonderful conversations. And how great of her, and how generous of her, and she showed true interest in it, wanting to know how exactly do you shoot it, and really
that's amazing, because
incredible.
Yeah, you're not dealing with just somebody who's kind of this is like literally a legendary character from the legendary program that you that you loved. So the first thing, I got two more major questions. The first thing is, how can people see it? And because I know you're doing a bunch of them, right? You got a bunch of them going.
Yeah, the great thing that, we did an episode, we did a second episode, we did a third episode, and then we said, the Honeymooners did 39 classic episodes. Can we do it? Can we get to 39? We did, and we did 39, and we're calling those our classic 39 episodes. And the great thing about having that many is it was week after week after week during the pandemic, as things changed and unfolded, and you can really get a feel for that as you watch the episodes. But we did those 39, and even though that was a goal we wanted to achieve, we weren't done creatively. So now we're doing really special lost episodes, just like the Honeymooners.
The lost episodes. So where people can see it on YouTube? Is that where we're going?
Yes. We have, our website is thehoneyzoomers.com, pretty straightforward. And on there, you can see every episode. You could see the lost episode. We even did some special little short videos that are on there, and you can check them all out. They're all there to see. And we are also on YouTube, the Honeyzoomers YouTube
This is exactly what we get from Bronx people. It's a thing of passion. That's what it is. So here's my question. And you got a favorite episode of the Honeymooners? Not your show, the
Honeymooners.
Do you have one of the 39? I got one in my head, so go ahead.
Oh, do you really? I'm so curious to know what yours is. It's such a hard question to answer.
I saw it last night, as a matter of fact. One of the channels, I think the Me channel was playing them, and I just happened to be flipping around and I caught it. And it's like when you see it, you got to stop and find out which episode. When Ralph insists that the man is the king, and so he and Art Carney decide that they're going to get drunk, and she switches Alice switches the wine to grape juice, and they drink it. They get drunk, and
it's the best.
So I saw that last night. It's fresh in my mind. There's 100 others.
That is one of my favorite episodes. So I'm so glad you mentioned that one. One of the best episodes. I personally, oh God, I'm not saying anything is my favorite, because it's so hard to put just one on top. I love the episode where he thinks his taxes are being investigated. That episode.
I'm sorry.
No, it's so great, because it just taps into so many real things that we have lived through in this world, especially our Bronx world, being worried about money and his anxiety.
I got to tell you, it came up recently because there was a deceased relative, and we were debating how much money we were going to get. And I said, we're going to get a fortune. And it's like the fortune, which of course it turned out to be, I hereby give my fortune to Ralph. Anyway, listen, Jolie Tribuzio, thank you so much. Honeyzoomers, go to honeyzoomers.com, check it out, love it, like it, do whatever they got to do, because we want them to do as many.
Thank you.
Okay. And listen, say hello to your brother, Joey. I love him.
I will definitely do that. Thank you so much, Gary.
Folks, what fun. We learned something, and we had a lot of fun tonight on the Bronx Buzz and on Bronx Talk this week. What do we got? We're gonna do, I don't even remember what, but we got some very important stuff. Everything we do on BronxNet Television is important. Have a great night. Stay safe.